Hello everyone, hope everyone is doing well. Today we're going to talk about supply and the factors that affect supply. So we're going to derive the supply curve and then see what factors can shift the supply curve. So before we start with the supply curve, we have to talk about something called quantity supplied. Now this concept, if you remember from the demand slides, we had a quantity demanded. So in this case too, we have a quantity supplied. Here too, we believe that sellers observe the price and then decide on the amount, which is the quantity supplied of their product. So sellers first observe the price and then they decide what amount they should produce, and this is called the quantity supplied of the product. And so as we saw with demand, buyers observe the price and then they decided what to purchase. Sellers too, they look at the price of the product and then they decide what is the amount that they are going to sell or provide in the market. So just like in demand, we also have a quantity supply. And so now we can, using this information, we can draw a supply schedule, which was a table that gave us the relationship between price and quantity supplied of the product. This is very similar to the demand schedule that we had before. So let me write this up here, a supply schedule. So the supply schedule will basically list the price and then ask each supplier or each producer. So we are asking for different prices. We have 6 prices, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we ask at $1, what is the quantity that supplier A is willing to provide to the market? And supplier A may say 2. And then we say, okay, what if the price is $2? Supplier A may say 5. And then at $3, they may supply 8. At $4, it may be 14. At $5, it may be 19. And at $6, it may be 25. The same questions we ask to B, and B may supply 4, 7, 10, 15, 22, and 27. Notice that these are each sellers in the market. So, and we don't have one seller in the market. We may have multiple sellers. Now, there are cases where we just have one seller in the market and we call them monopolies. We will study them later in another video. But for now, we know that for most products, there are multiple sellers in the market. So if I'm looking at the quantity supply, total amount provided in the market at a given price, I will just add the quantity supplied of each seller. So at $1, there's 6 units being provided in the market, 2 by supplier A and 4 by supplier B. So in total, it's 6. At $2, it is 12. At $3, it is 18. At $4, it is 29. $5, it is 41. And at $6, it is 52. So with this now, just like with the demand curve, we can now construct the supply curve based on the supply schedule. So what are we doing? We are basically looking at the price, which is on this side, and the total quantity supplied in the market to figure out our supply schedule. So to figure out our supply curve, sorry, not supply schedule. We already have our supply schedule. So we do the same thing with demand. We start with always writing our axes names. Price is always going to be in the vertical axis and quantity is always going to be in the horizontal axis. And we don't flip them. We don't put price in the horizontal axis, quantity in the vertical axis. That would be wrong. Price is always in the vertical axis. So then we draw our lines and we have our numbers. Let's just say 10, 20, 30, and this is 40. We may have to go up to 40. I mean, 52 would be way off. So let's draw the first one, which is 1 is at price 1, market quantity supplied is 6, so it should be somewhere around here. At price 2, it is 12, which should be somewhere around here. At $3, it is 18, which should be somewhere around here. At $4, it is 29, which should be somewhere around here. And at $5, it is 41, so 41 is going to be here. And at $6, it is 52, which should be kind of way over here. So if I draw it, I see that this is what my supply curve looks like. So this is the supply curve. Notice one thing. As price increases, quantity supplied for A and B also increases, and so market supply curve increases. So the supply curve is always going to be an upward sloping line, and this is because of what we call the law of supply. So the law of supply states that as price goes up, quantity supplied goes up. And this is true for most cases. There may be a couple of exceptions. We will talk about them in the elasticity slide, but for the most part, for most goods, this is what happens. As price goes up, sellers find that, at a higher price, they're able to earn more. They are able to earn more revenue, so they tend to produce more quantity. And so we see that the supply curve is upward slope. Now, just like in the demand slide that we saw, that there are many non-price determinants that can shift the demand. In the supply curve too has factors that can shift the supply curve. And we call these the non-price determinants. So these are not price, but there are other factors that could increase or decrease supply. So the first one is definitely just like, we saw that as we added more sellers, quantity supplied at a given price will go up. So we know that the number of sellers can definitely increase or decrease the supply curve. So let's draw the curve first. So we have our curve here. This is price, this is quantity, and this is my supply curve. So as the number of sellers increase, supply curve shifts to the right or increases. Now, why is this? Let's look at one point. Let's say at $10, initially we had 100 units being sold. Now, if we added a few more sellers in the market, a few more suppliers, then at $10, we would have maybe 120 units being offered. And this would be true for every price. So for 5, for 15. So at every price, as we add more sellers, the points will move rightwards to this point. So consequently, since all the points move to the right, we tend to have a supply curve shifting to the right. Now, the same way, number of sellers decrease. So if there's sellers are leaving the market, then supply will shift to the left. And that would mean that instead of being in the right, we would have the supply curve moving leftwards to this curve, to S prime prime. The second factor that increases or that can shift the supply curve is technology. Technology is anything that makes us use fewer resources to produce. So anything that helps to speed the process of production. So if that happens, then at every given price, we may be able to produce more in the market. So therefore, a cost-saving technology can shift the supply curve to the right. So if we introduce some technology that helps us to reduce costs, so let's say that before we used, let's say, some kind of manual machine to make coffee, to grind the coffee beans. But now I found out that there's this new electric machine that helps to grind the coffee beans and produce really good coffee. So using that technology can help me to produce more at every given price. So it will help to shift the supply curve to the. We also have another factor that affects supply is cost of inputs. So inputs are items that are used to produce the final good. So if I think about, in my example, if I'm thinking about making coffee, there are a lot of inputs that go into making coffee. So I need inputs like water, I need coffee beans. So these are the ones that I need. I may need some kind of a machinery. I may need space, so a location. I need utilities like electricity. I need, other products like sugar, milk, and many other like containers, or like the lids for the coffee mugs. I may buy porcelain cups, I may buy paper cups. So all these things and many other things go into the production of coffee. So all these are my inputs because they help me to make the final product, which is coffee. So I can say that from here, if cost of inputs go up, it becomes more expensive to make coffee. So then supply shifts to the left. So if Another input is like wages to the workers. That I also forgot that I just remembered. So imagine like we already have a supply curve, and let's say cost of like sugar and coffee beans, they all went up. So in that case, if this is my supply curve, it now becomes more expensive for me for a given price to provide this much coffee. So let's say at 90 units. So then I have to reduce my output, and my supply curve shifts to the left if input costs go up. Now, of course, if it gets cheaper, so if input costs decrease, then supply curve will shift to the right. So if it gets cheaper to produce coffee, then because inputs are more available and cheaper, then my supply curve will shift to the. Finally, we have expectations. Let's say if sellers expect more buyers in the future, then they may hold back on their product now, and so supply will shift to the left. So if sellers are expecting that, maybe let's say that if I'm selling coffee, right now nobody's buying coffee, but in the future it may be much colder and people will be wanting more of coffee. So they may just artificially reduce the amount of or the cups of coffee they sell now. So in that case, they will reduce the supply. And if everyone else does that, so then supply will shift to the left. On the other hand, or this could also have another example, could be like with fashion. Maybe people are thinking that this trend will be more popular in the future, so they are going to hold on to it now and hoping that in the future it will be more profitable to sell it then. On the other hand, if sellers expect fewer buyers in the future, they may sell their products now, so supply will shift to the right, or will increase now. Or I did say now. Finally, some books have this, which is weather, and this is true for agriculture goods. If the weather is bad, that reduces the harvest of some crops. So let's say if the weather is bad, there wasn't enough rain, then maybe the harvest of rice or of coffee or of other agriculture produce may decrease because of that, and so their supply will shift to the left. Now, if the weather is conducive, let's say if the weather is good, then it can increase harvest of crops. So then supply will shift to the right. Hopefully this was helpful. If you have any questions, you can write it in the comments below. Have a good rest of the day, and I will see you at a later video. Goodbye.